Alright, welcome to round 12 of the FRL Division 1 Championship. Here we are in the good old US of A for what's going to be shaping up for an exciting race. Already here in qualifying, we have what looks to be another battle between McLaren and Alpine. But we also have a couple changes. Oh, and that was that a spin? Yep, it was from Pink actually going through the latter part of Sector 3 there. Looks like he's having a couple of struggles going around this track in terms of traction. And he is going in. Probably disappointed with how that turned out. Walton is running quickly though, getting ready to finish up his lap around the track. Getting ready to cross the line. He's going to put himself 6th overall. And as long as we're here, let's take a little bit of a tour around this track. So, here we are at the Circuit of the Americas. The home track for most of the league, considering we are American-based for the most part. But this race and this track, it's honestly become a modern classic. 20 corners to make your way around on this track, and 2 DRS zones, one down the pit straight and the other down the long back straight. That's a Mercedes of Sugi. Well, he has already made his way through, but Slayer is going down right now. This is one of the primary overtaking spots on the track. Of course, that main straight into turn 1 is another important area to overtake. But the run up to turn 1, it is a massive uphill run, as seen with Kermit here. It is a very, very wide area as well, meaning that it's potentially possible to go even 3 wide through turn 1, but you certainly don't want to do that into the next few turns, as we have an S section running from turns 3 to about 6, and even after that, some technical turns means it's difficult to find an overtake. It is possible to attempt a dive bomb into turn 11 just before the DRS zone if the driver in front of you messed up that sector and leaving them vulnerable, but typically not recommended unless it's on lap 1, and even then, you know, don't get a little bit too risky. Sector 3 is a little similar to Sector 1 in the sense that there are a lot of tight turns, so there's not going to be a ton of overtaking. So really, the overtaking is going to happen in the 2 DRS zones for the most part, but again, you could see some unorthodox overtakes here or there. And that means qualifying is important for the most part, and another factor about this track is there's a lot of runoff, meaning that safety car chances aren't as high. While they are certainly possible, it's not going to be as bad, but turn 1, speaking of, turn 1, lap 1, this track can be interesting. As I mentioned before, it is a very long run up to turn 1, and it is a very, very wide turn 1 as well, meaning you can fit multiple cars alongside. So you'll see some drivers crazy enough to attempt 3, 4, maybe even 5 wide going into turn 1. Now, obviously, by the exit, there's not going to be 5 alongside, but it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. At the moment, going through qualifying, Wolfer is leading the session with the 2 Alpines not too far off. Well, actually, they're 6 cents down. I take that back. They are quite far off. Sugi, though, has done well to put himself 4th overall. Meanwhile, his teammate is into the top 10. And, well, looking at other drivers, Gio has been disqualified for a reason I don't know for. Taylor's getting ready to finish up a lap soon enough, and he seems to be running pretty well. His teammate a little bit less though, but he's getting the lap started right now, so should be able to make up for a bit of lost time. And Taylor crossing the line puts in a solid lap, putting himself 5th overall. And it's Sketchy strangely taking his time there. I think he's just completely backed out of this lap. But that was the Red Bull of Henny making his way past. Looks like he's going to be finishing up a lap. Now, he of course, was the team principal for AlphaTauri at the start of the season, but decided he wanted to change it up a little bit and move up into the Red Bull seat. Meanwhile, Ping looks like he's still having some struggles around here. He's invalidated his lap run. Meanwhile, Sketchy Bull running through. This is his team's home race, technically, even though Haas at this point, I would say, is more Italian than American, considering their team principal is Italian, and they got a Ferrari engine, and they got a lot of former Ferrari personnel. But still, they're an American team, by technicality. So they're going to want to perform well at their home race for Sketchy Bull and Yeti. Checking in with the top three, Ghostly has invalidated. Max, though, I think he's just getting his lap started right now. And he's looking to be wrapped through Sector 1, but a little bit down compared to his previous time. Meanwhile, Wolfer is actually about a tenth and a half up, so he's still finding plenty of speed here. I think the McLaren driver is going to be unstoppable at this rate. Oh, that's Henny crossing the line. He improved massively and put himself second overall. That is an incredible lap for him. And that's going to allow him to be really competitive in the front. Meanwhile, we have Prid. Oh, wow. Yep, Wolford did find improvement. He's up to 33.398. But anyways, as for Prid, he's getting his lap start, making his way through the S section. He can go full throttle through the first two turns, but you have to back off in the third. That's exactly what Prid did. And he's navigating himself very well through. Doesn't want to cut too deep or risk invalidating. Prid is taking these corners very well. Is careful on the throttle through that turn. Now coming up here, it is a pretty sharp turn, well over 90 degrees, making your way through. He got that turn really sharp. I'm actually surprised he didn't get a track limit penalty for that, but I guess that shows that he really knows the track limits around here. That's going to allow him to gain even more time. And Zip has retired. Did he retire on track or retire in the pits? I'm actually not certain on that, but Fred, I think, may have set a purple sector 2, but was down his previous time, so that must be a glitch. Still, this is a very solid lap that he's putting together right now. Now, he can go flat out for the most part, but has to back off a little bit on the throttle going into this next turn. Oh, but he goes very wide. I'm amazed it's not a validation, but one final turn to cross the line. Has he found improvement? Yes, he has. He's put himself back into the top 5. Meanwhile, Kermit came to a near full stop, and that's a little bit along the racing line. So, I don't know if that was necessarily a good thing. I mean, it was kind of on the racing line, but kind of not. I think it would have been in his better interest to go a little bit further wide off. Anyways, Envy is making his way through, and is doing quite well. Now, Wolfer did very well here last season after getting a driver penalty for no reason at all. The game was just being mean. He still managed to come back and win through just a sheer incredible drive. Pink, he had his struggles here, including getting into contact with Sugi, but still managed to get on the podium. If not, maybe he won. Honestly, I think Wolfer 1 was Pink taking second. I think that's what it was. Anyway, Fazeberger and the Williams is running through, getting ready to finish up his lap. This is not going to be a very competitive one. Looks like he's had some struggles because he's already going to be putting the slowest time on the board. Meanwhile, Sugi looks like he invalidated his first run, but he's getting ready to go for another one. see if he can get through and improve even further. Maybe get into the top 5. And that's Sketchy Bull making way for his teammate, who is actually on a cooldown lap at this point, I think. And he just really slowed down. I have no idea what's going on there, but Sketchy's just really taking his time, leading by a few other drivers. What's a good thing he lets Sugi by, because he's on a hot lap, and he's already improved by nearly a 10th in Sector 1. That gain alone is going to be able to put himself ahead of Fred and Yeti. The two of them are doing very well once again. The two main drivers in Alpine Division 2, and yet again they're showing that they can compete at the top of Division 1. Meanwhile, checking in with Rogue as he found some extra time. He has found a little bit more, but it looks like he may have lost a ton of time in Sector 3, and that's where he's going to find the most gains. FaZe won't be finding any after crashing and retiring from the session. Looking at Ghostly, he's finding nearly a 10th himself, but Sugi found a ton of time. 7 tenths exactly gained is going to put him into 2nd overall. That is an incredible time. Still not good enough to beat Wolver, who's going out for one last run. And we have a little over a minute left to go. So a lot of drivers are going out for one last run before qualifying is up. And they're going to need to make this count. The times are going to be stacking up really close towards the end. So, for example, Yeti may drop down a few spots, especially since Fred, he's only 3 thousandths off. He could very well gain that time on that lap. Of course, Fred can't afford to make any mistakes, because if he does lose out, then that's one less place gained. But if he gains just a 10th, he's going to put himself into the top 5. Because it really depends on what time Ghostly is about to set. Crossing the line, can he improve? Yes, he does. He gets ahead of his teammate and goes 3rd overall. But Max is finding plenty of improvement himself. He can very well pass his teammate to retake 3rd. Perhaps get himself onto the front row ahead of Sugi. And Pink is out. Looks like he may have crashed in Sector 3. Not 100% certain on that, but we can take a look. Yeah, he completely lost the car there. Looks like it may have been a step of oversteer that just sent him there. And fortunately for Pink, that means he's going to be out stuck at P16. And the Yeti, Rogue, and Skid are all done, so they aren't going to be able to find any improvement. Welvdang finds a ton of it, though, puts himself 5th overall. Meanwhile, Kermit in Sector 1 alone is up a couple tenths, and that's going to be a good amount of improvement. And that was Sketchy Bull just crossed the line. He wins 4th overall now, because Max just passed Wolver's best time to take 1st. But Wolver, I think, is about to take that pole position back. He's up by nearly 2 tenths on this lap. Can he succeed and retake pole? Yes, he does. Wolver is going to get pole position unless the driver behind may have something to say about it. I don't think Ghostly will, because according to that, I think he's down a few seconds, but that could be incorrect. Actually, no, Ghostly will not be able to improve. His best start is going to be P5. Henny hasn't found any improvement either. That's going to be unfortunate for him. He was potentially going to find enough improvement to at least get out of Wolfgang, but maybe into top 5 again. Fred gets pretty close to the top 5, still a couple tenths off, but puts himself 6th overall. Now Taylor Boss is completely backed out on this lap, and Slayer sends himself into the wall. Wow. I have no idea what that was, but meanwhile Kermit crossed the line, only puts himself 12th overall. And that's going to be the end of qualifying. Wolver takes another pole position for McLaren. Max joining him on the front row. A pretty familiar sight we've seen between these two. Stoogie and Sketchy Bull heading up the second row, followed up by Ghostly and Frid. Welting, the two Red Bulls of Henny and Envy, Yeti, Slayer, Kermit, Taylor Boss, Rogue, Skid, Pink, Faceburger, Zip, and Geo getting disqualified in qualifying, so he's going to have to start at the back of the grid. Well, that was a pretty exciting qualifying. It's going to be interesting to see how many drivers are going to go wide into turn 1. We're going to see how that pans out as we get into the race shortly.